Nice to meet you all. I will give a short presentation about the implementation of external push notifications. I will also hold my presentation in English. I'm sorry for any inconvenience that this might cause. Fortunately for the code and unfortunately for this presentation, my PHP is more fluent than my English. Yeah. First, I want to make a quick survey. Which of you was at the presentation we held at the ILIAS conference? That's okay. So I know I can start from the very beginning. Okay. General, everyone here knows what an external push notification looks like. Like when you have your phone and it says, oh, your message or your favorite website has a new notification, and you can click at it and get to the website. This is what we are introduced for ILIAS 11. And now, since it's already in the core, I will show you how to implement it. It's very, very easy. So I don't know if I can fill 30 minutes with it, but we will see. And maybe you have all a lot of questions because it's easy to implement, but it has a bit of flaws in the usage regarding different OS and different devices. So we may get there with some questions and questionings.
If there's any time left, Ingmar, maybe we can connect to the idea we had to wide ideas what to do with push notifications in ILIAS.
Yeah, but I guess that's more conceptual. You can get the ILIAS conference for that. That's okay. My definite view. Okay, first off, I will show you a quick implementation of a push notification. I already also have a smaller test installation where you can test it. And then we get from the implementation to the administration part and then to the usage. So for the first part, I will show you how to implement a push notification. We have some requirements, which while I will get this one. Yes, of course. Wait. Shut up. This way better. I will get to the requirements after the implementation because we don't need it at the beginning, and then I can show you from the requirements directly the usage of the website, so we don't flip back to the IDE and to the website and vice versa. So first, for the implementation of push notifications, you need a push provider interface. I have a push ILIAS client. It's a very basic ILIAS client installed here. So it's a normal ILIAS 11, and I will implement a provider now. Of course, I have to decide where I put this provider because I don't know now exactly which component should use my push provider. That's totally random. I just decided to do this in the dashboard. So I can go to the dashboard and classes and implement a new provider here, which I will do quickly. And I can call this my push provider. So I have a basic push provider, and as it said, I have here ID to okay, yeah, of course. Wait, but ja, das
ja, Zoom heißt die Option, aber ich kann gar nicht sagen.
Steuerung, Shift und Punkt oder Komma, eins von beiden.
Kannst nicht der Command oder Control Preferences öffnen, dass die als Ding einnehmen.
Settings.
Ja, genau, hier kannst du nach Zoom suchen.
Ja, genau. That's better, I guess. Okay, so I have created a class my push provider. As it said in the implementation, this has to implement the push provider interface. So I implement push provider interface, and also with all this message stubs that got. This is the basic implementation of this push provider. this, what's important here is maybe this has no impact on the handling of the push provider. This is only for organizational purposes, so people can subscribe to that provider and not to another provider. Like when I want to be notified about things that happen on the dashboard, but not notified about things that happen in the learning programs, then I can select the one and deselect the other, so I don't get spammed with notifications. So I can implement it really easy. So I need an identifier. This has, of course, to be unique. So I name this my provider for now. I can give it a name. As you can see, I can also use a translation here. For the purpose of presentation, I will just give it a generic English name now. Of course, you can translate it in other languages. So I can say this is my provider. And I can give it a description which should describe more of the purposes it notifies me about. For now, for the presentation, I also go very basic here. This is just this provider. So, and with this, I have my provider implemented. Now I have to add this provider to the service. We all had I don't know who was in the component revision presentation today. So quite a few. So we take that into action now and go to the dashboard. We have here component revision, and now I have to contribute this provider. Let me look. I'm not quite sure how that was. Notification. Not quite sure how is this. Notifications. That's the difference. This has to be contributed to the provider interface, and then I can just add my provider, new my push provider, and with that, the provider is basically already implemented. This part here is, if you put it strictly, already optional. So you don't technically need it because, like I said, the provider is not implemented for the handling of the push notification, just for the configuration and the user setting. So you could add the user setting manually without this contribution. If you propose this to the core, we will not approve it, and we will say you should build this into the component revision, contribute this into the component here. But for testing purposes on your local installation, you don't even have to do this if you just want to see it, or if you just want to make a push notification work. Of course, you should always do that. So I have a provider, I have its contribution, and that's basically all I need to implement a push provider. Of course, now I have a push provider that doesn't push notifications to me about anything. So I have to add a context where I can push notifications. But what I now implement is basically nothing the provider requires. It's just so I have a point where a notification is triggered. You could trigger this notification, for example, also in the event handling that Fabian Schmidt introduced. Currently, I will take a more practical part for the presentation now. But as I said, this is nothing that should be, or that has to be part of the whole provider thing. So I override the content in the dashboard notification GUI the way pretty sure I have a dependency injection container here. I don't, so I will use very bad coding and get one. But I Of course, don't do this in a productive system, but just for the sake of showing it, so I can get high renderer, and just for the sake that I'm rendering a button here that will notify me if I click it. So we can have a practical solution for this presentation. So I'll go for a factory here, get a button, standard button. This says notify me, and we'll have and this will then this will then redirect me to this page here with the command notify, and then of course I have to implement the command notify. This is where it gets interesting for the provider again. It says public function notify. So basically, I want this command to be the normal show command. So I say when all is done, go back to show. And before this, I have to implement the provider handler and give it my provider. So I can show you how I did this in this implementation here. This is basically this is my provider I built. In this case, it has a namespace, but that's not really important here. Of course, you should have a namespace, but not for this presentation purpose. And then I can get a handler and can get a handler and gives the handler the provider, and then I can use the handler to push notifications. So I will just copy that here and add this to my provider. Of course, my provider is called a bit different. My push provider, then I get a notification handler, and then I can say to the handler, it has only a push function. I can give it a user and say notify this user about the following message. Of course, this can be translated too, but we focused on the implementation of the provider that is basically very raw. So the provider handler itself is just commissioned with the distribution of notifications, not with queuing, translations, switch cases, or something like this. So with this, I basically have implemented a push provider. Inside, of course, I have to reset my ILIAS, reload my ILIAS here, so I can pause it you. So I can get in the push provider implementation. This may take a while. So, and with this done, I can basically use my provider. So when I go to my web page, go to my ILIAS and log in. You see I have a new button here, and this button can notify me. When I click this button now, it should do nothing. Oh. Make something broke. Wait. Yeah. This is because I don't have implemented or I don't have enabled push-pull notifications on my installation right now. Because when I go to administration, communications, and notifications, you see I can't enable this. And this is where I come to back to the administration and requirements, because the one thing you need in the administration to implement push notifications, what isn't there in the core ILIAS, is you need an ACDH key to implement it in your ILIAS. We can do this also very quick. I will open the documentation so I can. You can see this in the detail. You can also see this in the notification README when you want to remember how to implement an external push notification. As you can see, we need an ILIAS configuration with a notification path that provides a private key. The private key can generate it like this. It doesn't have to, of course, but that's just an example how you can generate this key. I already did that. I have a key here, and I have an ILIAS configuration that provides this private key. So if I not just reload my composer, but reset the ILIAS setup with my new updated configuration, then it should generate me such private key. And with that private key, if I reload this web page, you can see I now can enable push notifications because all the requirements are met, and the private key is given. With this, I can enable push notifications. I can save this, and with enabled push notifications, I have now the possibility as a user to enable push notifications for myself, because that was the global enable push notifications. For myself, I can enable push notifications by clicking at communications, push notifications, and then there are two settings, client settings and user settings. This has the purpose that, as some of you may know, push notifications cannot activate it by a user or a user session, because push notifications always are activated for a hardware device, for a smartphone or a laptop, for example. So you have to activate them for your device, but you can filter them for your user settings, because that is something what we do in ILIAS. So I have to activate push notifications for this special device. I click here, then you also get the external request. If I want to do that, I allow that. And then you can see ILIAS always sends a dummy notification. So you know push notifications is working for you. And as you can see, this is all also in my notification center of my OS and not within the browser. So it's a really external push notifications. And now I can go to the user settings and I can see, here's my provider. This is just a test provider, nothing special. I can activate it and save it. And now I get notifications of this provider. So when I go back to the dashboard and see my notify me button and I push it, it works. I get now my my notification that says, congrats, you pushed the button. So that's basically it, what you need to implement push notifications. Of course, that is a really pointless purpose for push notifications, but you can implement them in any case. Yeah. So I will now say something to some implementation flaws, as I already mentioned. The one big flaw is some OS and browsers may not support push notification out of the box. That's due to the circumstance that push notifications are not well liked by most browsers. Push notifications have an acceptance of around 70% in the internet. So when you get a call, only 1 of 6 persons really wants this push notification to happen. This is not because of push notifications are bad, because more of push notifications are used in bad context. It's kind of like iframes. Iframes are not bad, but we all know spam websites which use a lot of iframes to be very annoying. So the acceptance of push notifications by users is very fragile, and most browsers of course want to be pleasant to their users, so they are very strict with push notifications. This works generally on Windows and Linux for Chrome and Firefox. This is a very basic combination where you can say this works, this is stable. It gets tricky when it comes to Microsoft Edge, because Microsoft Edge is kind of restrictive on push notifications. For example, when you deny push notifications too often on Microsoft Edge, it says you want to deny all push notifications, that you don't get the request. So when you have people who want to activate this in their client and say, oh, I can't get a pop-up for this push notification, it's most likely because the browser automatically set all push notifications to denial. So they have and we can fix this. We can't reset it, of course. This would be only a loophole for bad practices. So people have to go to their browser and reset their browser notifications. Another fragile part is iOS from Apple, because iOS only accepts push notifications for pages that provide progressive web apps. So as you can see in the requirements, you would need a PWA compatible manifest on your website to make this use for iOS. And even in this case, it doesn't work out of the box. So people have to create a PWA of your website to get this push notification. So it's, I guess, when in our implementation we said this has around 80% coverage, and 20%. That doesn't mean that 20% of all combinations are not covered, but it's most likely that the persons who need this has to do some extra steps to use this effectively.
Ingmar, may this was implemented in the first place due to ILIAS NRW thoughts making ILIAS more mobile friendly, and now we're planning to focus on PWA compatible ILIAS together with Thibaut and Ingmar. So the last 20% are strictly aimed to get on them too.
Yeah. Of course, there are still some very special browsers that still have struggled supporting push notifications. But yeah, the main components like Windows, Linux, iOS, macOS, and Chrome, Firefox, Windows, Microsoft Edge, all supported in a kind of way when you configure it right.
What's the mobile browsers?
Also, the most of. So like if 95% can do it, 5% may also can do it, but are not very likely to.
Firefox Mobile is a little bit tricky to get them display a PWA, but it's going to be a lot more better due to the fact that Apple is claiming that it's focusing on PWA more and more over the last major versions. So I think overall we will get a good implementation even for desktop and mobile devices and users. For directly, I come from a didactic perspective, from directly contact from donors to lecturers.
Okay, then no problem. Then a few more limitations. We were able to provide very raw push notifications in ILIAS without any provider. So there's no greater host behind it, which is costing money, or where this message is delivered. They deliver directly to the browser, which is kind of special thing, because most open websites use central push notification provider, which offers a service for like 20 million push notifications, and you can make couples and something like that. But this also has a due to that, we also have very raw push notifications. So you have great power, but with great power comes great responsibility. Since we output push notifications very well, you can use the implementation to spam, to overload your server also. So all this is kind of in your own responsibility to take a look of. Push notifications are generally also mostly used for direct connection. So I want to notify one user about something that just happened, and not like I do a maintenance or an update on ILIAS. I want to notify all users or something like that, because it's one thing you wouldn't use a mail for that. Also, there's better ways to do that, and it's also because of the temporarily of push notifications is not sufficient really. So there are currently no queues. If you want one, you have to implement them yourself. You should really ask if you want a queue on push notification, because when a notification comes, it's not like a mail. When a notification comes 10 minutes later, it may not be relevant for the user. So I don't need a notification that someone was coming online a half an hour ago. We have done no validation, so you can send a user as much notifications they like as you want. but the user can deactivate your notifications if he feels annoyed by this. So you also want to validate this too, maybe. And we have no clear heartbeat, so a push notification can get lost if the user is not on his end device, or maybe has a stricter configuration or something like this, which is also due to the concept of push notification. Like, we don't want to queue them, we don't want to deliver them later. We want to notify someone now, and if you don't want to be notified now, we probably don't want to notify him anyway. Okay, so I have 5 minutes left. I have prepared a push notification website. If you want, you can test this also now. You can go on push.invorbereitung.de and can create an ILIAS account. It's a very basic registration formula. All those accounts are also only 7 days available, so you don't have to worry about it. Like, you can just register if you want here with the basic formula. No, this is complete now. I have already registered, as you can see, so I can log in here.
Sorry, what's the domain?
Push.invorbereitung.de. So, when you have created an account and logged in, I can show to you, I have globally activated push notifications, so the user can go to the communication push notification client settings to activate them, which I will do now here too. Oh, I already activated them by testing. So I can reactivate them and get my dummy push notification. I can go to the user settings and activate my personal test provider, which does the same as the provider I implemented locally. I just named it here different. So, and then I can get a notify me and get a push notification. Okay, I missed something. Of course, you can disable notifications in similar ways. There are also a few flaws because push notifications are device driven. If 2 persons use different ILIAS accounts on one device, the second person, when he wants to notify push notifications, gets the message that another person already activated push notifications on this device. You always can override this by just disabling notifications and re-enabling them. Then you deactivated push notifications for the other person. So it's more like a single device feature, and not really meant for like library PCs or so in a study library or something like this. So it's more for your personal smartphone or something like that. Okay. Are there any questions? Yes.
I have a couple of questions.
Couple.
Yeah. So you talk about multiple users per device, but what about the opposite? Multiple devices per user?
I can activate the push notifications for multiple devices as one user.
Yeah.
All where activated it would get the push notification. Yeah.
Second question. Is it correct that the standard would also allow to revoke push notification later? Like, I send it out and 5 minutes later I want to revoke it.
This is possible. It's not quite implemented yet, but I guess it's as soon as I know this is already standard. Like, when you don't deliver a push notification 2 hours or something like that, then it's just disappear. Generally, push notifications are not really something you want. If you want to ensure a person is notified, it's more a convenience that the person get a push notification. Of course, when you like when an exam or something like this changes or so, you still want to send an email. But as I said, as I showed you, the provider can be integrated in any way. So you can integrate it beside an email, or you can also, since the provider gives you a response of a push notification was delivered or not, you can push out a push notification, and when it was not delivered, push out an email, for example. This is also possible.
So, but if someone needs to revoke, ask you to.
Yeah, this is. I'm open for feature requests.
Yeah. And the third question is, or it's hardly a question, observation. Right now, I think that the user has to go to the settings, like in 2 tabs, like first activate notifications, and then also make sure to register. But I don't know. I'm wondering, maybe I'm in some component, and this component wants to advertise push notifications. Could the component offer some button like click here, and if you click here, then I will take care of all your settings. And
this is technically possible. Like the user setting, you don't have. If you are mean, you don't have to ask the user to activate the setting. You just can activate it for him.
yeah,
of course, because we're in ILIAS. The client setting is a bit tricky because you have to ask the browser, and when the user accepts, it has to persist it in a specified way. So you can refer to this page, for example. This page is still very ugly, so we we can surely enhance it, or maybe provide a model which can you implement to activate this. But that is also again more kind of a feature. Question.
So the user settings now you show can only filter by provider, so you can enable provider or not. So I guess it means that if I want to send a different kind of things, I have to do it with different providers. So the user have the option to.
In general, yeah, but you can, if you want, you're free. Like it's very raw. You can implement a provider which depends on other settings, so you can filter push notifications to send to the user, of course. Like the provider is very basic. And what I wanted to show at last is this is the push notification handler. This is also very basic. Like you can see it sends a push notification and returns a true if the push notification succeeds, and false, of course, if it doesn't. But this also have some kind of other results too. So you also can implement a completely new push provider and handle your push notifications separately yourself. If you say, I don't want to use your ILIAS core provider, this is like the basic provider for simple, small push notifications that you can always use, but you are free to implement more complex, more refined providers for this.
Yeah, this actually answers my second question. That you mentioned that the no heartbeat, and like yes, as developers, we know that push notifications are not guaranteed. Like a lot of users actually have to, like mentally think of them as guaranteed. And if something does not appear when you pull down your notification on your phone, it didn't happen. So
this is also covered in the handle of the response here. So we cannot guarantee that the push notification is put out, but as you can see, there are very many debug loggers here that exactly tell you what happened to the push notification and where it failed. Because, for example, there are some special kinds like if you send 3 push notifications in a minute, most browsers will detect it as spam and reject it as spam. So if you enable the debug logger, you can not guarantee a push notification sent, but you can say every user, yo, this wasn't sent because due to that reason or something. Yeah.
Wouldn't the end game be that there is ultimately exactly one this ILIAS provided? So you would manage actual sending or dispatching of messages with event. And this is just one mean of transportation.
This would be the perfect scenario, I guess, but I'm not sure if there are some places. The requirement for this is that everything is covered with event handling, of course, which isn't the case.
Obviously, yeah.
So yeah, this would be the perfect case when we have all events that should trigger these push notifications.
But there isn't something you would like. There isn't something the provider does that then reflects on each and every push notification sent.
No, there's nothing. The provider's just for the provider's only for the user settings.
All right.
At least there's no. You have to give a provider, but you can create an anonymous provider and always send it and say this is active for all users if you want. It's not. not what should be, but you can do that. Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm wondering about a bit complex scenario where you have LTI components, for example, and these or something similar to LTI would create push notifications of some kind. Would you like route them through ILIAS, or would you expect that the external component creates them by itself and somehow gets them to the user?
I guess I would initially route them through ILIAS. You could also get the end provider of the push notification out of ILIAS. It's in the DB storage, so you could handle this yourself. But I'm not seeing any benefit in that right now. Maybe, but I'm not sure on this topic. So maybe if you look deeper into it, you see a purpose for that.
Maybe you mentioned which release is this in? Only 11 or
This is
22?
in ILIAS 11 already, so you can use the app from ILIAS 11 upcom. Any more questions?
Just for core, or just for core components, or even for plugins? I just had to
You can use it in core components. You can use it in plugins too. One tricky part in plugins, as we had in the component revision, is that you have to contribute it with inside the component, which is not as flawless in plugins as it is in a real component. You can make a separate component for that. But as said, this provider only is for the user settings, so you could do that manually besides implementing a component. Yeah. Any more questions? No one. And thank you for your patience.